This is our very first, and I'm not going to lie, horrifying look at how Spencer and Monique Tepe were murdered inside their own home. He was shot in the head, the torso, the chest, his extremities. I have details on all of those shots and what many of them mean.
At 9:03 in the morning on December 30th, 2025, a Columbus police officer received a dispatch call to perform a wellness check at a residential address in the Weinland Park neighborhood of Columbus, Ohio. He drove to the address. He knocked on the front door. He checked the back of the property. He did everything the protocol required. Then he left. 1 block away, at the 1400 block of North 4th Street, a 4-year-old girl named Emilia and her 17-month-old brother Beckham were awake inside their family home. Their parents were on the floor of the second-story bedroom. 3 spent 9mm shell casings were on the carpet beside the bed. There were no signs of forced entry anywhere in the house. No weapon had been left at the scene. No alarm had sounded. No neighbor had called anything in. The children had no way to reach anyone. So they cried. The call that started the morning had come from Dr. Mark Valrose, the owner of Athens Dental Depot in Athens, Ohio, 75 miles southeast of Columbus. Valrose called 911 from Florida at 8:58 a.m., where he was vacationing over the holiday. He told the dispatcher that his dentist, Spencer Tepe, had not arrived for work. He said Spencer was never late. He said Spencer always contacted the office if something came up. He said he also could not reach Spencer's wife, and that was the part that concerned him most. Columbus police logged the wellness check at 9:03 and dispatched an officer. That officer attended the wrong address. At 9:56 a.m., an unidentified man passing the correct address on North 4th Street called 911. He said he could hear a child crying inside the home. He said he could not get anyone to come to the door. At 10:03 a.m., a friend of Spencer Tepe's arrived and looked through the window. His 911 call is part of the public record. He could not complete his sentence. He said there was a body. He said his friend was lying next to the bed in a pool of blood. In the background of that recording, the children can be heard. Columbus Fire Department Medic 7 arrived and formally pronounced Spencer Tepe, 37, and Monique Tepe, 39, dead at 10:11 a.m. on December 30th, 2025. Both had sustained multiple gunshot wounds. No firearm was recovered. No signs of forced entry. Emilia and Beckham were removed from the home physically unharmed. The family golden doodle was found inside. Columbus Police spokeswoman Caitlin McIntosh later confirmed publicly that the officer had attended the wrong address and that the department did not know how the error had occurred. What this script builds, from verified court documents, named law enforcement statements, and confirmed public records, is a case that no other coverage has assembled in this way. 4 documented moments before December 30th, where the record shows the outcome could have changed. A divorce file that came back to life through a clerical error 6 months before the murders. A break-in inside the Tepe home 3 weeks before they were killed. A neighbor's door being smashed 11 days out in the same neighborhood at the same hour. And a wrong address on the morning the children needed someone to come. 4 open doors, all of them missed. And the man now charged with these murders had told a witness, in testimony documented in a Franklin County court affidavit, that Monique Tepe would always be his wife. Welcome to Guilt Veil. Today's case is the murders of Spencer and Monique Tepe, Columbus, Ohio, December 30th, 2025. If you are new here, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. And tell us in the comments where you are watching from. This channel exists for cases where the documented record shows that the people we lost deserved better from every system that was supposed to protect them. Emilia and Beckham Tepe are 4 years old and 17 months old. They deserve every person watching this to understand exactly what happened and exactly what was missed before it did. Now let us get into it. Monique Frances Sabatorsky was born on October 14, 1986, in Chicago, Illinois. Her family moved to Worthington, Ohio, when she was 1 year old, and that is where she grew up. She played soccer. She ran. She had a love of horses that never left her, and she was, by every account from people who knew her, an avid reader who carried books the way other people carry their phones. She attended The Ohio State University and worked at a daycare while pursuing her master's degree in early childhood education. She graduated. She went to work. She built a life in Columbus. Spencer Louis Tepe was born on December 9, 1988, in Cincinnati, Ohio. He came from Mason, Ohio, where he graduated from Mason High School in 2007. He went to Ohio State for his undergraduate degree, biology and Spanish, and returned to Ohio State for his Doctor of Dental Surgery, which he completed in 2017. He was fluent in Spanish, which he used in his practice. He was a member of the American Dental Association. He volunteered with Big Brothers Big Sisters. He was a Bengals and Buckeyes fan. He worked first at Stone Creek Dental in Ashland, Ohio, before moving to Athens Dental Depot, owned by Dr. Mark Valrose, where Valrose would later describe him as a man who was always on time, always communicated, and deeply committed to the people in his care. They met online in 2018. Their families would later describe it as a relationship that grew quickly into something solid, something real, something they said had a foundation of love and respect, alongside what the obituary called, in their own words, a side of goofiness. They married on December 13, 2020, in a private ceremony inside their Weinland Park home at the 1400 block of North 4th Street. The couple exchanged vows in the same rooms where they had built their daily life. Family members and close friends were present. Their daughter Emilia was born in 2022. Their son Beckham was born in 2024. By December 2025, Emilia was 4 years old and Beckham was 17 months. The couple also had a golden doodle. Rob Misla, Monique's brother and the family's spokesperson in the weeks that followed, told reporters that the couple's home was where everyone gathered. He said you never saw them without a smile. He said they were so warm. Phyllis Williams, a family friend, told the press that Monique and Spencer loved each other dearly and were soulmates. Monique was known, her family said, for her bright smile, her infectious laugh, and her bubbly personality. She had a background in childhood education and brought care and intention into everything she did. She had stopped working when their children arrived and was a stay-at-home mother at the time of her death. She loved to bake. She loved to travel. She loved her children with devotion. Spencer's employer, Dr. Mark Valrose, wrote on social media after the murders that Spencer would be deeply missed by the team and the many patients he had cared for over the years. The Athens Dental Depot closed for the rest of the week. On December 30th, 2025, Spencer and Monique Tepe were 3 weeks away from their 5th wedding anniversary. The GoFundMe created to support Emilia and Beckham after their parents were killed raised over $170,000 within days. On January 11th, 2026, more than 1,000 people attended the couple's visitation at Schrodinger Northwest Funeral Home at 1740 Zollinger Road in Upper Arlington, followed by a celebration of life at Due Amici at 67 East Gay Street in Columbus. In her wedding vows, which the family shared publicly in the weeks after the murders, Monique had written, "I had quite a journey to get to you. Countless bad dates, wrong relationships, and waterfalls of tears." She was describing the life she had lived before Spencer. She was describing, without naming it, a first marriage that had ended in divorce in 2017. A marriage that had lasted, by cohabitation, 7 months. A man who had refused to accept that it was over. That man's name was Michael David McKee. Michael David McKee was born on June 29, 1986, in Zanesville, Ohio. He attended Bishop Rosecrans High School in Zanesville, approximately 55 miles east of Columbus, where he played football and was listed as a district all-star selection. He enrolled at The Ohio State University, earned his bachelor's degree, then completed his Doctor of Medicine at Ohio State in 2014. He completed a general surgery internship at Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center before a surgical residency at Carilion Clinic in Roanoke, Virginia. It was in Virginia that he met Monique. They married on August 22, 2015, while he was completing his residency. The marriage lasted 7 months of shared cohabitation before the couple separated in March 2016. Their separation agreement, filed on April 28, 2017, stated that differences had arisen between the parties, and they were now living separate and apart. The divorce was finalized in June 2017. Under the terms, McKee kept the couple's $230,000 home in Roanoke, Virginia, where the mortgage was solely in his name. Neither was ordered to pay spousal support. They kept their own vehicles, their own debts. They had no children together. On paper, the divorce was unremarkable. Incompatibility, no contested filing, no reported incident, no legal record of what Monique had been describing privately. 2 witnesses provided statements documented in the Franklin County Probable Cause Affidavit, signed by a Columbus detective and filed in Franklin County Municipal Court. The first told police McKee had said Monique could be killed at any time, that he would find her and buy the house next to hers, and that she will always be his wife. The second told police Monique had said McKee choked her and forced unwanted sex on her. A family member told NBC News McKee was emotionally abusive, and Monique had described being terrified of him. None of this was formally reported to Columbus police before December 30, 2025. There was no protective order. Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant confirmed at the January 14, 2026 press conference that Columbus Police had no prior reports of any incidents related to McKee and the Tepe address. Monique carried this privately and moved forward regardless. After the divorce, McKee's professional path crossed 4 states. He completed a vascular surgery fellowship at the University of Maryland Medical Center in Baltimore between 2020 and 2022. He held licenses in Virginia, Colorado, Nevada, and Illinois. From 2023 to 2024, he worked at Las Vegas Surgical Associates in Nevada. By 2025, he had joined OSF St. Anthony Medical Center in Rockford, Illinois, 90 miles west of Chicago, maintaining a condo in the Lincoln Park neighborhood. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffender, speaking to News Nation after McKee's arrest, assessed the case this way. She said, "They were married for such a brief time that it was strange, and that she believed it reflected a deep-seated resentment and hate that had built up over years and finally reached its conclusion." Her assessment was not speculative in isolation. It aligned with what 2 witnesses had already documented in the court affidavit. In June 2025, 6 months before the murders, a Franklin County court clerk made a data entry error. The divorce file between Monique Tepe and Michael McKee, finalized 8 years earlier, closed, filed away, reappeared on the Franklin County court docket. A new hearing date appeared, September 2025. Court officials later confirmed to USA Today that it was a clerical mistake involving a misassigned docket number. The September hearing was canceled. But the notification had already gone out. McKee knew the file that connected him legally to Monique was active again. That is where the documented timeline of this case begins to accelerate toward December 30th. By mid-2025, the public record of Michael McKee's professional life tells a specific story. He had moved through 4 state licensing systems over approximately a decade. He had held surgical privileges in Virginia, Colorado, Nevada, and Illinois. At no point in that process did any medical licensing board in any state connect the documented abuse allegations, known to Monique's friends and family, described to witnesses who would later give statements to Columbus police, to the credentials being issued and renewed in his name. The systems that track licensed physicians and the systems designed to protect domestic violence victims operated in parallel and never intersected. In June 2024, a civil lawsuit was filed against McKee and Las Vegas Surgical Associates in the United States District Court for the District of Nevada. The lawsuit alleged medical negligence and civil rights violations. In a separate state court action in Clark County, Nevada, McKee was named as the primary defendant in a medical malpractice case stemming from a July 5, 2023 surgical procedure at Las Vegas Surgical Associates. The malpractice complaint alleged that during a surgery to treat lower extremity venous insufficiency, an 8-plus-inch piece of plastic tubing was left inside a patient. The procedure in question had been supervised by McKee. When the plaintiffs in the Nevada malpractice case attempted to serve McKee, they could not find him. Las Vegas-based attorney Dan Laird, who represented parties in that matter, told Fox News Digital that nearly a dozen attempts were made to locate McKee. Laird said McKee had provided fake addresses in the court filings to avoid being served. He said McKee had simply disappeared. The quote that Laird gave to the press was direct. He said, "He just disappeared." Former prosecutor Lindsay Richards, analyzing the civil cases for Fox News, said the malpractice history put McKee's life in context and painted a picture of someone whose circumstances were spiraling out of control. She noted that a prosecutor would likely use the civil cases to establish mounting pressure and stress in the period leading up to the murders, not as direct criminal evidence, but as background that a jury would need to understand who this man was in the months before December 30th. Then the divorce file reappeared. In June 2025, through a clerical error involving a misassigned docket number in the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas, the 2017 divorce case between Michael McKee and Monique Tepe was placed back on the active docket. A September 2025 hearing date was scheduled. Court officials confirmed to USA Today that the reactivation was an error, and the hearing was subsequently canceled. But a court notification had gone out before the cancellation. McKee received it. The question the documented record cannot answer, because the investigation is still active and McKee has pleaded not guilty, is what that notification meant to a man who had already told a witness that Monique would always be his wife. What the record can show is the timeline. The malpractice case was chasing him across state lines. His professional history showed a pattern of moving on before accountability could catch up. And then, in the summer of 2025, the court system inadvertently placed his ex-wife's name back on a document addressed to him. 6 months later, he drove from Rockford, Illinois to Columbus, Ohio in a silver SUV with stolen license plates. He had already been inside her house once. He had already walked the alley once. He knew what he was returning to. The divorce that Monique had filed in 2017 because of incompatibility had not closed the door for McKee. The clerical error in June 2025 told him, however accidentally, that the file was still open. By April 2025, before the divorce file reappeared, a 911 call had already been placed from the Tepe residence at 2:45 in the morning. That call is the next piece of the documented record. On April 15, 2025, at approximately 2:45 in the morning, someone called 911 from the address at the 1400 block of North 4th Street in Weinland Park, Columbus. The caller hung up before speaking to an operator. The Columbus Emergency Communications Center called the number back. A woman answered. She told the dispatcher she was okay. When asked why 911 had been called, she said, "Because me and my man got into it, but I'm okay, I promise." She could be heard crying throughout the brief call. She told the dispatcher she did not need police, fire, or medical services. No officers were sent. The Columbus Emergency Communications Center coded the incident as a domestic dispute and logged that assistance was no longer needed. Fox News Digital obtained the recording through a public records request. NBC4 Columbus also obtained the call. The recording confirmed the contents of the dispatch log. Rob Misla, Monique's brother and the family's spokesperson, stated publicly that the voice on the recording was not Monique's. He told the Surviving the Survivor podcast that the couple had hosted a party at the house that night, and that the caller was likely one of their guests. He later told People magazine that he had mixed up dates in his initial recollection, and that whatever the call represented, the voice did not match his sister's. The Tepe family maintained that position throughout the investigation. Columbus police later confirmed, in response to a public records request by NBC4, that the April 15th call was the only other 911 call associated with the North 4th Street address in the 2.5 years prior to December 30th, 2025. The full window of available 911 records. No name was included in the dispatch logs for the April caller. The identity of the woman on that recording has never been publicly confirmed.
The call remains unresolved in the public record. What the record establishes is this. At 2:45 in the morning, from the home where Spencer and Monique Tepe lived with their 2 children, someone placed a 911 call and described a domestic dispute. The call was made in April 2025. The murders occurred at the same address, in the same early morning window, 8 months later. The identity of the caller was never determined. The Columbus Emergency Communications Center closed the matter with no police response. That was in April. By December, the pattern in the neighborhood was intensifying in ways the documentary record confirms. On December 19, 2025, 11 days before the murders, a neighbor called 911 at 2:31 in the morning. Her address was a 3-minute walk from the Tepe home in the same Weinland Park neighborhood. She told the dispatcher that someone was banging and knocking on her door and appeared to be trying to force their way inside. She told the operator, "So now they're smashing on my door. I think they're trying to get in." She said she did not know who was outside. She could not see them clearly. The dispatcher logged that the problem left at 2:44 a.m., 13 minutes after the call. Police did not respond to the scene. The identity of the person at that neighbor's door on December 19th has never been publicly established. What the documented record confirms is the time, 2:31 a.m., the location, 3 minutes from North 4th Street, and the behavior described. Someone trying to force entry who left when it became clear entry was not possible. Police did not respond to that scene. The dispatch log recorded that the problem had left. No connection was made to the Tepe address 3 minutes away. 11 days later, between 2 and 5 in the morning on December 30th, Michael McKee walked down the rear alley of North 4th Street and entered the Tepe home without forcing the door. He had been inside that property before. That is documented in the Franklin County probable cause affidavit. The December 6th entry is what comes next in this record. On December 6th, 2025, Spencer and Monique Tepe were not home. They had traveled to Indianapolis, Indiana with friends for the Big Ten championship game. Michael McKee was not scheduled to work that day. Surveillance footage captured him entering the curtilage of the Tepe property at the 1400 block of North 4th Street through the rear alley. He was inside or on the property for several hours. He left. This is documented in the Franklin County probable cause affidavit, signed by a Columbus police detective and filed in Franklin County Municipal Court. The affidavit states that the man seen in the footage approached the property from the rear alley, the same alley he would use on December 30th. It states that McKee was not scheduled to work that day and that the footage captured his approach, his time on the property, and his departure. While the December 6th footage was being recorded in Columbus, Monique and Spencer were in Indianapolis with friends. During the evening, Monique left the group early and returned to their hotel room. Spencer later told a friend that she was upset about something involving her ex-husband. The affidavit does not specify what she found, what she discovered, or what she knew when she returned. What it confirms is that her reaction to whatever happened on December 6th was distress significant enough that her husband relayed it to a friend. No arrest was made following the December 6th entry. McKee was not charged with burglary at that time. The footage existed. It was not yet in the hands of investigators. The Tepes returned to Columbus. They went back to their lives. They had 24 days left. The Franklin County affidavit also details McKee's vehicle. Investigators described it as a silver SUV. The vehicle had stolen Ohio and Arizona license plates attached to it at different points.
Police were able to connect the car to McKee's former home address and his current work address in Rockford, Illinois. After the murders, the silver SUV was found on January 9, 2026, in the parking lot of OSF St. Anthony Medical Center in Rockford, where McKee worked. Investigators found scrape marks on the window in the area where a sticker had been present before the murders and subsequently removed. McKee was arrested the following morning. The break-in on December 6th established something that the February 3, 2026 autopsy report and the ballistics evidence would later confirm with physical evidence. This was not an unplanned act. McKee drove from Rockford to Columbus on a day he was not scheduled to work. He approached the property from the rear. He spent hours there. He left without being seen. He knew the layout. He knew the alley. He knew the camera positions. He came back 3 weeks later with a 9mm firearm equipped with a silencer and stolen plates on his car. The Franklin County affidavit presents the December 6th entry as one of the central pieces of premeditation evidence in the prosecution's case. Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant, speaking at the January 14, 2026 press conference after McKee's arrest, described the attack on December 30th as targeted and called it a domestic violence-related attack. She confirmed that McKee was the person identified in the December 6th footage. The second use of the phrase from the court affidavit fits here, not as description, but as documentation. A witness told Columbus police that McKee had said Monique Tepe would always be his wife. The December 6th footage is what that statement looks like as physical action. He was inside her home while she was in another state. He proved he could find her anywhere. No protective order existed. No police report had named McKee in connection with the Tepe address. The threats documented in the affidavit had never been formally received by any law enforcement agency. The December 6th entry was not discovered until after the murders. Every escalation before December 30th produced no formal intervention because no formal report had been filed. Monique had told the people closest to her. They believed her. The systems had not been given the record that would allow them to act. That gap is what McKee walked through on December 30th. Between 2 and 5 in the morning on December 30th, 2025, Michael McKee walked down the rear alley behind North 4th Street in the Weinland Park neighborhood of Columbus, Ohio. He was wearing a dark hoodie and light-colored pants. He was not running. He was not rushing. Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant would later confirm at the January 14, 2026 press conference that McKee was the person captured on neighborhood surveillance footage walking in that alley. His vehicle, the silver SUV with the stolen Ohio license plate, was recorded on surveillance arriving in the neighborhood before the murders and leaving afterward. NBC4 tracked the route from the Tepe home to the camera location where the vehicle was recorded. The timing was consistent. McKee entered the home without forcing the door. No signs of forced entry were found anywhere in the building. He was carrying a 9mm firearm equipped with a suppressor. He went upstairs. Spencer and Monique Tepe were in their second-floor bedroom. The Franklin County Coroner's Office released the official autopsy reports on February 3, 2026. The reports were based on examinations conducted on both victims following their deaths on December 30, 2025. The findings are part of the public record. Monique Tepe sustained 9 gunshot wounds. 3 of those wounds were to the chest. 1 was to the right cheek. Spencer Tepe sustained 7 gunshot wounds. 3 were to the trunk of his body. He sustained 1 wound to the head and 1 to the neck. Both victims died within seconds to minutes of being shot.
The reports noted that the trajectories of certain wounds were consistent with both victims having moved or attempted to defend themselves. A total of 16 gunshot wounds between 2 people. A standard 9mm magazine holds between 15 and 17 rounds, depending on caliber. 3 spent 9mm shell casings were recovered at the scene by Columbus police. No weapon was left behind. Both Spencer and Monique Tepe were still wearing their wedding rings when they were formally examined. Columbus Fire Department Medic 7 arrived at the scene and pronounced both victims dead at 10:11 a.m. on December 30th, 2025. The time of the murders, based on the coroner's findings and the surveillance record, was established by investigators as occurring between 2 and 5 a.m. An internal Columbus police report narrowed the window further. Court documents indicate the killings occurred at approximately 3:52 a.m. Emilia Tepe was 4 years old. Beckham Tepe was 17 months old. They were in a room down the hall. They were alive when the first officers and medics arrived. Their cries were audible on the 911 recording made at 9:56 a.m. by the unidentified man who passed the house and heard them through the locked door. The family golden doodle was found inside the home. The children and the dog were removed unharmed. 3 casings on the bedroom carpet. A suppressor, so the neighborhood heard nothing. Stolen plates, so the vehicle could not be immediately identified. The rear alley used on December 6th and again on December 30th, so the front camera produced nothing actionable. Each of those choices reflects preparation. The Franklin County Grand Jury reviewed the evidence and returned an indictment on January 16, 2026, charging McKee with 4 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of aggravated burglary, all with a firearm specification. The 4 murder counts reflect Ohio law, 1 count for prior calculation and design, and 1 for the act itself, applied to each victim. CNN legal analyst Joey Jackson noted after the arrest that prosecutors do not have to establish a motive. The state proves intent and the act. The physical evidence, the vehicle surveillance, the ballistics, the December 6th footage, and the testimony of 2 witnesses represent what the grand jury found sufficient to charge McKee with 4 counts of premeditated aggravated murder. At 8:58 in the morning on December 30th, 2025, Dr. Mark Valrose called 911 from Florida. He was vacationing over the holiday. Several members of his staff at Athens Dental Depot had already been trying to reach Spencer Tepe, who had not arrived for his shift and had not called ahead. Valrose told the 911 dispatcher that this was entirely out of character. He said Spencer was always on time. He said Spencer always communicated. He told the dispatcher he could not reach Spencer's wife either, and described that as the more concerning thing. Columbus police logged the wellness check request at 9:03 a.m. and dispatched an officer. That officer went to the wrong address. He knocked on the front door. He checked the back of the property. He was at the wrong house for approximately 10 minutes. He left. Columbus police spokeswoman Caitlin McIntosh confirmed this publicly and stated that the department did not know how the officer had been sent to the wrong location. Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant, in an interview with Spectrum News, confirmed the same. He did everything he was supposed to do. Knocked on the door, checked the backyard, all those things, but it was not the right location. No explanation for the error has ever been made public by the Columbus Division of Police. At approximately 9:52 a.m., colleagues and a friend of Spencer's arrived at the correct address at the 1400 block of North 4th Street. They could not get a response at the door. One of them called 911 at 9:56 a.m.
and reported hearing children crying inside the home. He said he could hear one of them yelling and could not get in. At 10:03 a.m., one of Spencer's friends gained enough of a view through the window to see the body. His 911 call is in the public record. He said, "There's a body." He said his friend was lying next to his bed, off of his bed, in blood. He said he had just been with Spencer the day before. The two children could be heard in the background. The time between the first 911 wellness check call at 9:03 a.m. and the moment the correct address was reached was approximately 87 minutes. During that time, Emilia and Beckham Tepe were inside the home with their parents' bodies. Columbus Fire Department Medic 7 arrived, performed the required examination, and pronounced Spencer Tepe, 37, and Monique Tepe, 39, dead at 10:11 a.m. The Franklin County Coroner's Office later confirmed the preliminary cause and manner of death as apparent homicide by gunshot wound for both victims. On January 5, 2026, Columbus police released surveillance footage to the public. The footage showed an unidentified person walking in the alley behind North 4th Street during the window investigators believed the murders occurred, between 2 and 5 a.m. The figure was wearing a dark hooded jacket and light-colored pants, head down, hands in pockets, moving south through the alley toward the Tepe garage and residence, walking slowly, not running. The department said on social media that they knew the community had questions and concerns, and that detectives were working diligently. They asked anyone with video, photographs, or digital evidence from midnight to 9 a.m. on December 30th, covering the area of Summit Street, North Grant Avenue, East 7th Avenue, and East 11th Avenue, to come forward. The GoFundMe created to support Emilia and Beckham Tepe had already raised more than $170,000 by the time that footage was released on January 5th. Rob Misler told ABC6 that the family wanted the investigation done right instead of fast, and that they had full confidence in the investigators. He said this was not an episode of television. He said it was a family. He said hundreds of people had been affected. 11 days after the murders, the investigation reached its conclusion. In the parking lot of a hospital in Rockford, Illinois, and at a fast food restaurant nearby. On January 9th, 2026, Columbus police detectives, working in coordination with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, located the silver SUV in the parking lot of OSF St. Anthony Medical Center in Rockford, Illinois. The vehicle had been connected to Michael McKee through neighborhood surveillance footage, which showed it arriving in the Weinland Park neighborhood before the murders and departing afterward. NBC4 had tracked the route from the TP home to the surveillance camera where the car was recorded, and the timing was consistent with the established murder window. Investigators found the vehicle and confirmed McKee's connection to it through prior addresses and his current work address in Rockford. They also found scrape marks on the window in the area where a sticker had been present before December 30th and had since been removed. On January 10th, 2026, ATF agents arrested Michael David McKee at a Chick-fil-A restaurant near OSF St. Anthony Medical Center in Rockford, Illinois. He was taken into custody without incident. He was booked into the Winnebago County Jail in Rockford at 11:57 a.m. that morning. 11 days had passed since the murders of Spencer and Monique Tepe. McKee had been going to work. He had been living in his Lincoln Park, Chicago condo. He had been, by every external measure, maintaining his routine. Columbus police executed a search of McKee's Lincoln Park condominium. They found multiple firearms. Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant announced at the January 14, 2026 press conference that one of the weapons found at McKee's property showed a preliminary link to evidence at the crime scene through a national ballistics database. The weapon was a 9mm pistol equipped with a suppressor. Bryant stated at that press conference, "We believe at this point we have the person responsible for the murders of Monique and Spencer Tepe, and that person is Michael McKee." She described the attack as targeted. She described it as a domestic violence-related attack. McKee waived his extradition hearing at a Winnebago County Court appearance on January 12th. He was transported to Ohio on January 20th, 2026, and booked into the James A. Carnes Correctional Center in Columbus. A Franklin County grand jury returned a formal indictment on January 16, 2026, charging McKee with 4 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of aggravated burglary, all with a firearms specification. The 4 aggravated murder counts reflect the structure of Ohio law: 1 count for prior calculation and design, and 1 count for the act itself, applied to each victim. On January 23, 2026, McKee appeared via closed-circuit television from the jail for his arraignment in Franklin County Court of Common Pleas before a magistrate. He was wearing prison attire. He did not speak during the hearing. His defense attorney, Diane Minash, waived a request for bond. McKee was held without bond. He pleaded not guilty to all charges. The Franklin County affidavit was unsealed on January 27, 2026. It detailed the December 6th property entry captured on surveillance. It documented the witness who confirmed McKee had said Monique could be killed at any time and would always be his wife. It documented the second witness who described choking and forced sex during the marriage. It described McKee as the man seen in the alley footage on December 30th, consistent with Bryant's public identification at the January 14th press conference. On February 9, 2026, a court date listed as a trial on the Franklin County Common Pleas docket was clarified by court officials as a status meeting between attorneys and the judge to review discovery timelines. McKee did not appear at that session. The trial had not begun. If convicted on the aggravated murder charges, McKee faces a minimum sentence of life in prison with parole eligibility after 32 years. His defense attorney, Diane Minash, declined to comment on the allegations in the affidavit. In earlier proceedings, a criminal defense attorney not connected to the case told ABC6 that divorce history and disputes are not elements of murder. McKee's next scheduled court date is April 16, 2026. On the week of March 9, 2026, the home at the 1400 block of North 4th Street in the Weinland Park neighborhood of Columbus, Ohio, was listed for sale at $775,000. The real estate agent declined to comment to WOSU Public Radio. The listing exists. The price is confirmed in the public record. Spencer and Monique Tepe were married in that house on December 13, 2020. Their daughter Emilia was born in 2022. Their son Beckham was born in 2024. Their golden doodle lived there. Their friends came over on weekends. Rob Misla said, "You never saw them without a smile." He said their home was where everybody gathered. The family described Spencer as a devoted father who lived with energy, laughter, and generosity. They described Monique as a loving, patient, and joyful mother whose warmth defined her. On December 30th, 2025, both were shot in the bedroom of that house while their children were down the hall. The house is now listed for sale. Michael David McKee is held without bond at the James A. Carnes Correctional Center in Columbus, Ohio. He faces 4 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of aggravated burglary, all with a firearms specification. He has pleaded not guilty. The trial has not begun. Discovery is in progress. His next court date is April 16, 2026. If convicted, the minimum sentence is life in prison with parole eligibility after 32 years. His defense attorney, Diane Minash, declined to comment on the affidavit allegations. A criminal defense attorney separate from the case told ABC6
that a prior divorce history and disputes are not elements of murder. The Franklin County affidavit, unsealed January 27, 2026, documents what Monique's friends and family told police: the threats during the marriage, the choking, the forced sex, the statement that she could be killed at any time and would always be his wife. None of it was formally reported to Columbus Police before December 30th. Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant confirmed there were no prior reports involving McKee and the Tepe address. Medical licensing boards in Virginia, Colorado, Nevada, and Illinois issued his credentials without any of that information. The Nevada malpractice process server made nearly a dozen attempts to find him and could not. The Franklin County court clerk sent a notification about a closed divorce file. No system connected what was known about McKee to the woman he had threatened. That is the institutional record of this case. It stands independent of whatever verdict the trial delivers. Monique Tepe did everything right. She ended the marriage. She returned to Ohio. She earned her degree. She met Spencer in 2018. She married him on December 13, 2020, in the living room of their Weinland Park home. She had Emilia in 2022 and Beckham in 2024. She was 3 weeks from 5 years when she was killed. She will always be his wife. That is what the affidavit says he told a witness, recorded in a Franklin County court document. But the full record also shows who she was. Born in Chicago on October 14, 1986, raised in Worthington, reading books and playing soccer. A master's degree earned while working at a daycare. A life built in Columbus. Spencer, Emilia, Beckham. She was not his wife.
She was Spencer's. She was her children's. She was her own. Emilia Tepe is 4 years old. Beckham Tepe is 17 months old. They are in the care of relatives. The trial is ahead. The next court date is April 16th, 2026. Whatever a court ultimately delivers, the documented record of what was done and what was missed is already written. Subscribe to Guilt Veil and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. If this case moved you, if Emilia and Beckham's names stayed with you, share this video. Someone out there needs to hear it. Every case, every truth, every verdict.